Do you wait for everything to be perfect and lined up straight before you make a choice? How hard are you trying to get everything in your life right? What if jumping in and getting messy is one of the ways to find out what works for you? Discover how being willing to mess up can create the phenomenal life you truly desire. Get ready to quit judging and start embracing all of your messy adventures. Now, here's your host, self-declared messy living expert, Petrina Fava.
Hey, hello and welcome to Messy Adventures in Living. I'm your host, Petrina Fava. Thank you for being here. So grateful that you're listening. Can't wait to talk for an hour all about something that I'll tell you in a couple minutes. Okay, so Messy Adventures in Living. What is it? What are you doing here? What are you listening to? So Messy Adventures in Living is an hour or so or more, depending on how many shows you go back into the archives to listen to. It's a place and a space where you get invited into choosing. Choosing messily, not being worried about making the right choice, not being worried about making the perfect choice, just choosing something, choosing whatever feels right to you, whatever feels like the best choice at the moment. Just choose it. That's what you're getting invited to here on Messy Adventures in Living, choosing and then seeing what shows up, and then choosing again, and then seeing what shows up, and then choosing again until you create your life. Until you create the life you truly desire. So, Messy Adventures in Living and Petrina Fava, that's me. Here are some of the ways that I play in the world. So many ways. So I am a mom of 3 kids. They are 13 and 10 and 7, and I am super grateful for them because they provide me with lots of, I always wonder what the best word is. They push my buttons. They are aware of all of my judgments of myself, and they are constantly inspiring me and pushing me to be greater and be more of me and create my life as greater. Always. They have been an amazing inspiration for me to look inward and really create a life that is more than just okay, creating a life that is greater. That's what they have inspired me to do. Super grateful for them. I am also a pediatric nurse. I work in Toronto at an awesome place called Sick Kids Hospital, where I have the privilege of caring for families and kids, and they also inspire me and show me a very different possibility with bodies. And I think mostly what they've shown me is that what happens, what gets created when you don't have a point of view about bodies, and when you don't have a point of view about illness, and when you don't really have a point of view about pain. Recently, I watched a little girl, a patient of ours, that's been a patient of ours getting dialysis treatment for a little over a year, come into the hospital. She was scheduled to have both of her kidneys removed, and in quite an enormous surgery, actually, to have both of your kidneys removed, in case you don't know, lifting up the rib cage and, pulling it. Well, anyways, we don't always do it like that, but, not an easy surgery to have. And so she was scheduled to have it tomorrow, and she came skipping in, excited about her brand new pajamas that she got and her new stuffed animal, completely what most people would say is unaware of what lay ahead, but what I call not having a point of view. She was like, cool, I get to stay overnight at the hospital, and I have new pajamas, and I mean, how does it get any better than that? I have new pajamas, and I have a new stuffed animal, and I get to stay in a new room, in a new place. And she was totally excited. And then, so that's what happens when you have no point of view. It's interesting, most people would say that's the innocence of children, or that's like, oh, she doesn't know what's coming. And I look at it truly as not having a point of view. And I love that these kids show me that, and what can show up when you don't have a point of view about pain and illness and surgery and all that kind of great stuff. Yeah, anyways, I digress. I also am an Access Consciousness Bars and Body Process Facilitator. I like to play with this modality and use some of the tools in my life. I discovered it about 8 or 9 years ago now. If you have never heard of it, check it out. It's pretty weird, and that's why I like it. AccessConsciousness.com. Some energetic hands-on processes, as well as tools to change anything in your life, anything that's not working, and also tools to create your life, because it's not just about fixing the crap. It's also about creating your life as greater, which is one of the reasons why I love this stuff so much. I am also an author. I have contributed chapters in 3 books, Creations, Conscious, Fertility, Conception, Pregnancy, and Birth, and also in Possibilities in Parenting, and also in The Power of Releasing Judgment. I've had a lot of fun contributing chapters to those books. I like to write. I like words. I like to create stories. I always have since I was quite young. What else? See, this is all going to lead into what we're talking about today. But I do want to tell you about one more thing that I've created, which is my Naturally Happy Body line of 100% natural body products. I have lots of fun creating natural products for my body and anybody else's body who desires to have it. And naturallyhappybody.com, you can check out some of the stuff there. And if you want to know more about me, you can check out petrinafava.com. Okay, let's get to the show, shall we? So what are we talking about today? Today, the topic of our show is, the title of our show is Creating or Staying Busy. And I'm just laughing because I just spent, how long? 6 or 7 minutes telling you about all the ways that I play in the world. So creating or staying busy. Are you creating or are you doing busy? What's the difference? Is there one? Is it possible to be staying busy without creating? Or what exactly are you creating with your busyness? So many questions. Okay, let's uncover all the places that you're doing busy and what that is creating in your life. What would you actually like to create your life as? So I want to know from you, what does this bring up for you? What comes up for you? You know, what prompted you to click on the title of the show and say, oh, I got to listen to that one? Are you creating or are you staying busy? What comes up for you when you hear the word creating? What comes up for you when you hear the word busy, staying busy? What does all of that mean for you? Okay, so just looking at the chat room, I have way too much to do. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure last week I said something like, I wish there were more hours in the day. I need more hours in the day. So what is busyness for you? What is busyness? What does it mean? What is the energy of this word? So just as I was driving home from work today, thinking about or kind of creating this radio show in my car, busy, I kind of just kept saying that word over and over again, busy, 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 and really tapping into the energy of that word for me. So I like to play with words a lot, and I've discovered that meaning is different than energy. So the meaning of a word is not the same for me as the energy of the word. And so, of course, we can define busy. We can look it up in a dictionary. But as I was kind of saying the word to myself in the car, what I was doing was getting the energy of the word. And the energy of that word might be different for you than it is for me, than it is for my neighbor. So what is that for me? So as I was repeating the word busy, 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 I kind of got a sense of like a flightiness or constant movement, like a buzzing around. And also it didn't have what's the word? I want to say positive. Like it didn't have a good vibe. It didn't really have a good vibe for me, busy. Not that it had a bad vibe either. It wasn't happy or it wasn't comfortable. It was kind of like, kind of a little bit of not a heaviness, but just like a crookedness. There, that's the word. The word busy for me has this kind of crooked energy. I don't even know what that means, but that's how I can describe it for myself. Kind of a crooked energy. Busy. And then creation. What is that for you? What is creation for you? What's the energy of creation? What does it mean to you? But not meaning as a definition. Like, what is the energy that comes up when you talk about creation? Are you creating? Have you ever thought of yourself as someone who is creating in your life? Have you decided you're not creative? Have you decided that creating means that you're artistic, that you're creating a piece of art, or you're creating a clay vase? Like, is that what you've decided creating is? And have you ever considered that you are actually a creator? Because I think some people, because I've talked to some people who have said, I'm not creative. I don't create anything. So, by the way, that's crap, because every choice you make creates. It creates something. So I think just a few seconds ago, I asked the question, what was it? Is it possible to be staying busy without creating? So in my point of view, every choice you make, everything you do, everything you be creates something. So you are actually always creating, constantly creating. Every second you're creating something. What exactly you're creating is a whole other story. Okay, again, looking in the chat room. So, way too much to do, doing crap I have to have done, but wanting to do so many other things. Yeah. That would be busy. And then creating is putting my hands into yummy mud. It's play. Yeah. So that begs the question. It's like one of the questions that has been floating around for me is, are you creating from choice? Am I creating from choice, or am I creating from obligation? So if we look at the fact that we're always creating, then, can we really separate creation and being busy? But I think, in our minds we have this separation. But everything that we do and everything that we be creates something. Is it creating what we would really like to have? So here, one of the questions that you can ask yourself is, am I creating this from choice or obligation? So let's go to let's do some etymology. Let's look at some etymology. If you've listened to Messy Adventures in Living before, I like to check out the origin of words, because I feel like when I read the origin of the words, I get a sense of the energy that is there. And sometimes I am very surprised at what I find when I look up the origin of words. And sometimes it really what I read there lends itself to the energy of the word and how we use it today, even though maybe the meaning is different. So it's interesting to look at etymology and discover that sometimes the meaning of the word has changed a lot, and the energy is the same. So the best example for me is the word want, and the origin of the original meaning of the word want is actually to lack. And we don't really use it like that today, right? When we say we want something, we don't actually mean that we lack something. We mean like we desire to have it. But the original meaning of the word want is actually lack. I always think of the passage in the Bible that says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Right? I shall not lack. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not lack. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And for me, when I hear that passage, the energy is so clear, that energy of lack in that sentence. And yet, we don't attach that meaning anymore. But, the more I look at it, the more I get when I say the word want. I want that. I want it so bad. I so lack it. I lack it so bad. I so much don't have it, and I want. So that's just an example of a word for me that the energy is there, but the meaning has changed, I think, over the years. I never knew that was the original meaning of the word want. So we're going to look at the words busy and the words creation and see what we can come up with. So here's the origin of the word creation. So from the late 14th century, creation is an action of creating, a creation, a coming into being, creating, producing, and electing an appointment, a choice. So there's that word choice in there. I love that. That which God has created, and so lots of biblical references to the word creation. Creating, a producing, and electing an appointment, a choice. Okay? And then, interesting, the word busy is very cool. Oh, here it is. So, busy as an adjective, careful or anxious. continually employed or occupied. Continually employed or occupied. And then the notion of anxiousness. A notion of anxiousness, and also prying or meddlesome, like a busybody. So, and then also it was a euphemism for being sexually active, which I think is hilarious. Also of display work, so like of art, excessively detailed, visually cluttered. Really interesting, right? So busy, as an adjective, has been, the original meaning of it has been noted to be careful, anxious, continually employed or occupied. The notion of anxiousness, prying, meddlesome, excessively detailed, visually cluttered. So just interesting energy on those words. I'm going to leave you with that as we go to break, right? Isn't it so cool? So you're listening to Messy Adventures in Living right here on the Inspired Choices Network. We're talking about creating or staying busy. We'll be back very soon.
Do you wait until all the traffic lights are green before you get in your car? Of course you don't. Are you waiting until you have everything perfect to begin living? Most of us have learned not to take any steps until we have all the information to make the right choice. What if the opposite is true? What if it's choice that creates awareness? Are you willing to make lots of messy choices so you can begin to see the possibilities that you didn't think existed? Listen for Messy Adventures in Living radio show with self-declared messy living expert Petrina Fava every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 Central, 9 Mountain, and 8 Pacific on the InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. How much more expansive would your life be if you were willing to get messy with your choices?
What if there's nothing wrong with you? What if you're far greater than you've ever given yourself credit for? What if it's time to know the gift and the contribution you are to the world and to like yourself a lot more? Hi, my name is Dane here. 13 years ago, I started to truly ask questions. Actually, I started to be the question, and everything changed for me. Asking questions opens doors to infinite possibilities. And it's not about finding the answer. It's about being the question. Always. What I'm inviting you to step into is something that Einstein, Marie Curie, Newton, Da Vinci, Gandhi, Picasso, and Aristotle all knew to be true. What if no question is too big or too small? What if anything is possible for you? What if together we could create a kinder, gentler, happier world? Is now the time? Go to beingyouclass.com and sign up for a free video series, My Gift to You. beingyouclass.com. What if you, truly being you, are the gift and change this world requires? beingyouclass.com.
You're listening to Messy Adventures in Living with Petrina Fava. To participate in today's show, please call in the U.S. 815-880-8255. In Canada, 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also ask questions or comment by email by sending to Petrina at petrinafava.com. Now, here's Petrina with more Messy Adventures.
Hey, welcome back to Messy Adventures in Living. I'm your host, Petrina Fava. So today, the title of our show is called Creating or Staying Busy. And so before we went to break, if you're just joining us, we were talking a little bit about the differences between the energy of the words busy and creation. So what have you decided creation is that it actually is not? And what have you decided creation is not that it actually is? So the cool thing about definitions is and labels is that it creates huge limitation. Well, not cool, but not cool. So how many conclusions do you have about, the meaning of a word? And in this case, the meaning of the word creation. What have you decided creation is? And what has that decision, where is that decision limiting? Where has that decision made you make the decision that you're not creative? So what have you decided creation is? And are you letting that decision decide that you're not creative? Do you know what I mean? There's probably an easier way to say that, but that's just the way I'm going to say it because that's the energy of what I'm trying to say. So you decide that creation is something, and then that decision has made you decide that you're not creative because you have a very limited point of view about what creation is. So if you didn't label it, if you didn't have a definition, if you allowed yourself to be open to to not have a label, could you be aware of all the places that you are actually creating in your life that you'd never acknowledged before? So everywhere all the creation that you've done your whole entire life that you've never acknowledged, will you destroy and uncreate all of that? Right and wrong, good and bad, POC, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyond. So that weird sentence collection of words that I just said is the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. It is a collection of words that gets to the energy of whatever we're talking about and goes back to where a point of view or where a limitation was created and energetically gets rid of it. So if you would like to know more about it, it is a tool within Access Consciousness. The clearing statement actually has its own website, theclearingstatement.com. You can go and look it up. You don't need to understand it in order for it to work. So we're going to use it a little bit, just try and clear some of the energy, clear some of the limitations around creating and being busy that you have bought into. So again, how much have you never acknowledged that you have been creating? So, are you, for example, a stay-at-home mom, and have you decided that you are not creating because you don't have a job, you're not an artist, you don't really like to cook, you don't really like to clean, you don't like to sew, and so there you are. You're not creative. You don't like sewing, you don't like cooking. Those are creative things, right? Cooking is creative. You put things together and it makes something, and it has lots of room for improvisation maybe. And so is sewing. Sewing is creative because you're putting pieces together, and so it creates something. So everywhere you've decided that creation means taking bits and pieces and putting it together and getting a result, will you destroy and create all that? Right, wrong, good, bad, POC, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Have you decided that creation is about an outcome? Have you decided that creation is about a result? And so if that's what you've decided, then you can, and you're not doing any of those things, then of course how can you acknowledge yourself as creating? So let's use a stay-at-home mom thing as an example. If you're not cooking and you're not sewing and you're not good at crafts and you can't, bake a cake for your kid's Halloween party, then, you're not creating. Well, I challenge you to see that as an interesting point of view. What have you created for your family? And what if creating is not about, because what if creating is not about doing? Is it possible that creating is also a being? Can you create something just by being? Is creating necessarily always a doing? Creating can involve doing, but is it exclusive to doing, or can it also include being? So how much have you been being something that creates change that you've never acknowledged as creation? And everything that doesn't allow you to acknowledge, everywhere your being everywhere what you are being is creating a future, will you destroy and uncreate all of that? Right, wrong, good, bad, POC, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Yeah, we've decided that creating is a doing. And I think creating involves doing, but it's not exclusive to doing. What's happening in the chat room? Okay. So, can I say the clearing again? Oh, sorry. I'm slow in the chat room. I think I did repeat the clearing again. Sorry, let me know if I did it and what some of the words were, and I'll say it again. How much have you never acknowledged that you are creating? Yeah, I did. Okay. So let's see. Baking, I would bake, and I thought that was good, but my sisters could really sew. really well and make clothes that lasted, and I always thought they were better at creating than me. So I'm just reading something that's being typed in the chat room if you're wondering who I'm talking to. If you've never joined our chat room, it's super fun. You can click on the upper right-hand corner and type in a name and then join us in the chat room, pop in your question. So yeah, I would bake and I thought it was good, but my sisters could sew really well and make clothes that lasted, and I always thought they were way better at creating than me. Wow, that's really interesting. You would think that sewing is like higher on the creativity scale than baking. Weird. Cool. So what is that? What is this like? What is that? Have you decided that one thing is more creative than something else, right? Have you decided that sewing is more creative than baking? Like, have you decided that having a business is more creative than being a stay-at-home mom? Have you decided that, having a job as an artist, or having a job making commercials, or having a job making things up is more creative than being a secretary? These are all very interesting points of view, and they're complete and utter limitations, because when you start defining what's creative and what isn't, then it limits where you can create, and it limits creation that is not doesn't fit the box of our definition of this reality. Okay, enough about creation. Yeah, anyone can bake. Are you cuckoo? I cannot bake. Anyone can bake, right? So the point of view is, well, anybody can bake, but not anybody can sew. That's a super interesting point of view, because not everyone can bake. And yeah, like, is there a hierarchy of creativeness? And just because you can sew, so just because you can sew and sew well, are you creating? So let's say you're sewing because you're forced to. I don't know. Like, let's say you learn to sew as a kid, and then the only job you can get is sewing, is a sewing job, and you don't really like it. And then, yeah, like, is that the same? Is it the same kind of? Is it creative? Like, yes, you're producing something. You're producing an end result, an item. Is it the same, though, as, let's say, sewing purely for the fun of it, purely from joy? What is the difference? Well, what's the difference in what gets created when you are? Yeah, see, one is more of a doing for me. Like, if you are sewing to create an item because it's your job and because it's the only job you can get, the energy of that kind of creation is different than the energy of creation from, I'm just sewing because it's super fun and I freaking love sewing. Besides the pair of pants that results in the sewing, what gets created when you're sewing from joy? And what gets created when you're sewing from whatever, it's my job? Right? So, because there's more to creating than just an item or an end result. So when you are creating from joy, what gets created in the world from the joy that you're having in the creation? So is it possible that you are creating so much more in the world? You're creating space, you're creating laughter, you're creating excitement, you're creating happiness from the sewing, which is the doing. There's a beingness there that is creating something on the planet that the pair of pants can never match. Right? Like, your sister might be able to create a pair of pants with a wicked kick-ass pair of pants with her sewing skills. And your sewing skills may create a crooked pair of pants, but the joy and the exuberance and the happiness that you get from sewing creates something even more enormous, something a little bit less tangible, and yet it can create something that creates a lot of change in the world. So then that begs the question, like, what is creation about? Is it about the end result? Is it about creating happiness? What is it? Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, I don't really have an answer. That's the fun part is I don't have to have answers. That's what I like about this show. I actually did have a thought, but it's gone. So let's talk a little bit more about busy. So what do you think about busy? What comes up in your world about busy? Too busy. We are too busy. I'm too busy. Or somebody's too busy for me. I'm so busy I can't get everything done. I'm too busy for you. I'm too busy to do that. So what is the value of being busy? So let's go back. What did we say busy was? Here it is. Oh no, that's not the one. Careful or anxious, continually employed or occupied. That's the one for me. Continually employed or occupied. So here it is. So for me, busy has an energy of unawareness. So how much busyness are you using to create the unawareness you are choosing? And everything that is, and everywhere that's stopping you from creating the phenomenal life you really desire, will you destroy and create all that? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. What did I say? What busyness are you using to create the unawareness you are choosing? Or, I like it better this way, what busyness are you using to create the stupidity you are choosing? Which is really about unawareness. And everything that is, will you destroy and create it all? Right or wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. So is it possible that you're using busyness as a distraction? And what are you distracting yourself from? And what are you unwilling to see? And what are you unwilling to be aware of? Okay. No, not me. No, of course not. No, not me either. I would know nothing of this. That's why I'm talking about it. Okay, so we are going to go to break. You're listening to Messy Adventures in Living on the Inspired Choices Network. We're talking about creating or staying busy. We'll be back right after these words.
Do you wait until all the traffic lights are green before you get in your car? Of course you don't. Are you waiting until you have everything perfect to begin living? Most of us have learned not to take any steps until we have all the information to make the right choice. What if the opposite is true? What if it's choice that creates awareness? Are you willing to make lots of messy choices so you can begin to see the possibilities that you didn't think existed? Listen for Messy Adventures in Living radio show with self-declared messy living expert Petrina Fava every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 Central, 9 Mountain, and 8 Pacific on the InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. How much more expansive would your life be if you were willing to get messy with your choices?
What would you say if I told you that you could change your life in only 1 hour and all while lying down relaxing? Thousands of people all over the world have. What am I talking about? It's called Access Consciousness, the bars. The bars is an energetic body process that contains 32 different points on your head that when run assist you in releasing decisions about any area of your life that you have made solid and as a result cannot change. The bars is the first class in Access Consciousness, a dynamic set of tools and information designed to transform any area of your life. When you have a bar session, the worst that can happen is you feel like you had a fantastic massage. The best thing that can happen is your whole life could change. Go to accessconsciousness.com today to find a facilitator to schedule a private session or to find a bars class in your area. Are you willing to give yourself an hour to change your life?
You're listening to Messy Adventures in Living with Petrina Fava. To participate in today's show, please call in the U.S. 815-880-8255. In Canada, 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also ask questions or comment by email by sending to Petrina at petrinafava.com. Now, here's Petrina with more Messy Adventures.
And welcome back to Messy Adventures in Living. Thanks for being here. If you just happen to be jumping on in the middle of the show, today our topic is creating or staying busy. Creating or staying busy. What's the difference? What is it? So before we went to break, we were talking, I don't remember what we were talking about. We were talking about busy and busyness. And I wanted to talk a little bit about a little bit about, here we were, this is what we were doing. We were talking about busyness as unawareness, which is really the energy that is coming up around this for me. How much are you using staying busy as a distraction? And what are you trying to distract yourself from? What are you avoiding? Is there something that you're avoiding that you would, that you could just be choosing instead of avoiding it with busyness? Do you get that? Like, so what are you avoiding? What thing that you actually don't really want to do are you avoiding with the busyness you're choosing, when actually you could just choose not to do that thing that you don't want to do, right? So what are you avoiding with the busyness you are choosing? And what awareness are you closing your eyes to? Like, what awareness are you refusing? There it is. What awareness are you refusing with the busyness you are choosing? Oh boy, do I have to run that one all in a loop. What awareness are you refusing with the busyness you are choosing, and everything that is will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right, wrong, good, bad, pot, pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Again, if you haven't heard that, you can check it out at theclearingstatement.com. Okay. So I've come across some quotes about busyness. I love to scour the internet for quotes because it gives me a sense of all of the points of view that are out there in this world about a certain thing. When I like to just Google quotes, and then it's like a huge collection of points of view and judgments and conclusions about stuff. I love it. And then we can just pot and pock them all. So I found some, I thought of a few, and then I found some that I didn't know. The first one actually that came to mind when I was thinking about this topic, creating or staying busy, is the quote about the devil and idle hands. There's a couple of different ways that I know it. The devil makes work for idle hands. The idle hands are the devil's playthings. The devil makes work for idle hands. That's kind of how I know it. And so have you heard this before? And is this a point of view that you have? Or did you grow up hearing this, right? Something mothers would, a mother would tell their child, like, the devil makes work for idle hands. So meaning, if you're not busy, if you're sitting around doing nothing, if your kids have idle hands, they're going to get into some trouble. They're going to get into some evil. So I think about how many parents put their kids in programs or put their kids in sports or whatever as a way to make sure that they don't have idle hands, and so that they don't get into trouble. They don't hang out with the wrong crowd. They don't get into gangs. They're put in programs so that they are not idle, and so that in being idle, they will be more likely to pick up trouble. So, and not necessarily that that's entirely wrong. This is not about right or wrong. It's just that if you have that point of view and if you believe that strongly, then that's what you end up creating in your life. And so have you bought that point of view? Did you buy that point of view from someone, your teachers, your parents, whoever, it doesn't matter. And are you creating your life as busy because you believe that if your hands are idle, that the devil will fill them for you? And so, and everything that is, let's clear that. There's a little bit of energy on that one. Everything that is, everywhere you've bought into the notion of the devil makes work for idle hands, and therefore you are keeping yourself busy so that your hands are not idle and being filled with the devil's work. Will you destroy and create all? Right, wrong, give that pot, fuck, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Anybody else got some weird energy on that one? Idle hands are the devil's work. Everywhere you bought that point of view, everywhere you believe that, everywhere you're hearing that, always in your head, will you destroy and create all? Right, wrong, good, bad, pot, puck, all night, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Because if you're not busy, you could create. If you're not keeping yourself busy, if you're not keeping your idle hands busy, what could you create instead? Okay, what other ones? I talk so fast. I do talk so fast, don't I? You know why? Because my head goes faster than my mouth. I do talk quickly. I agree. Oh well, keep up. So what other points of view are out there? What are some of the other ones? Oh, here's a really, the rolling stone grows no moss. That's kind of almost a similar thing, right? A rolling stone grows no moss. So the thing is, if you're not rolling, you're going to grow moss. And so that, you have to be constantly moving so that you don't get old. and stiff and grow moss. Again, not that there's anything wrong with this at all. Hey, look, man, I like staying busy. Let me tell you. That's an interesting thing that I just said. Okay. So I like to have lots of things on the go all the time. And as you can see, I have created lots of things for myself in the world. I have a business making body products. I have a recently, full-time job. Actually, I have a full-time job plus a part-time job. I've got 3 kids. Like, I like to dabble in a bunch of everything. And so none of this is wrong. It's just what I've been looking at recently is how much of this is busyness and how much of this is creating. And like I said earlier, everything creates something. So everything that you choose creates something. So the question that I've been asking myself is, what will this create the future? Will this create the future that I am choosing? There. This is a great question to ask if you're kind of like, am I creating? Am I staying busy? Am I creating? Am I staying busy? What am I doing here? That's a good question right there. What is this? Am I creating? Am I staying busy? And if you're coming up to choose something, if you're adding a 4th and 5th and a 6th thing to your plate, you could ask, will this create the future I am choosing? And then really at the end of the day, you need to choose something, right? This is what we're talking about, always on Messy Adventures in Living. Choice creates awareness, so then you need to choose something and then get the awareness of what that creates. But will this create the future I am choosing is a great question to ask if you find yourself being busy or in the energy of busyness instead of creation. Okay, what else? What are some other points of view about being busy and creating? Here's one. He who is too busy doing good finds no time to be good. So I just like that one because it lends itself a little bit to what I was saying before. Like, where have you decided that creating is a doing? And have you forgotten about the creation that comes from being? He who is too busy doing good finds no time to be good. I don't know if I'm interpreting it right, but it doesn't matter because when I read that, what I kind of got was, how much have I decided creation is about a doing? And am I putting things to do in my way or on my plate and in my way when actually I've forgotten that creating can actually also be a being? And is it easier to be than it is to do? I think so. It is for me. It's definitely easier for me to be than it is to do. So how much have I never acknowledged, again, we're back at this, all of what I've created just by being? And where have I decided that I have to do more and more and more and more in order to create? And that if I'm not doing, then I'm not creating. Very interesting energy there. And I read this one. It's not so much how busy you are, but why you are busy. Okay? And then it goes on to say, the bee is praised, the mosquito is swatted. Hilarious. I've never heard that one before. Have you? So it's not so much how busy you are, but why you are busy. The bee is praised. The mosquito is swatted. So the idea is the bee, right, is a worker. The bee creates a hive. The bee creates honey. The mosquito is just an annoyance because it's just like buzzing around all the time. And this is not wrong. It's just, it lends itself a little bit to the outcome-oriented point of view about creation. But also what I get from this is that the bee creates for the future, right? The bee is creating for the future. I don't think the bee has a point of view about creating, or that like the bee is like, I'm so busy. And I saw some quotes about the trees being like, I'm so busy taking in oxygen and creating carbon dioxide. But I love that because it's so easy to look at nature and see what nature does and what nature bees without a point of view. So the trees are constantly creating, right? The trees are constantly converting oxygen to carbon dioxide. They never stop. They are 24/7 creating carbon dioxide from oxygen. But the trees don't go around being like, oh my God, I'm so busy. I like created CO2 all day. Today I didn't even take a break. Like for 24 hours, I created carbon dioxide and I did not take a break. At least that bee over there kind of slept for a few minutes. I didn't. I have been creating carbon dioxide 24/7 for my whole entire life. Oh my God, I'm so busy. Right? So, like, the trees are constantly creating, and of course, they don't have a point of view about it. So I just find that funny. Okay, so we are taking another break. You're listening to Messy Adventures in Living. We're talking about creating or staying busy. Be right back after a few minutes.
Do you wait until all the traffic lights are green before you get in your car? Of course you don't. Are you waiting until you have everything perfect to begin living? Most of us have learned not to take any steps until we have all the information to make the right choice. What if the opposite is true? What if it's choice that creates awareness? Are you willing to make lots of messy choices so you can begin to see the possibilities that you didn't think existed? Listen for Messy Adventures in Living radio show with self-declared messy living expert Petrina Fava every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 Central, 9 Mountain, and 8 Pacific on the InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. How much more expansive would your life be if you were willing to get messy with your choices?
Hey everybody, this is Dr. Dane here, and I would like to invite you to an adventure in being. I've just written and finished a new book known as Being You, Changing the World. Are you one of those dreamers? One of those people who's always known that other possibilities should be available but haven't yet been able to see them be created? Well, I wrote this book for you. In it, you'll find tools, processes, and unique perspectives to change the things you've always wanted to change but didn't know how. In it, you'll find an invitation to a different possibility for a way that we can be in this world that changes not only our lives, but by being us, allows us to contribute to changing everything planet-wide that doesn't work. Are you aware that truly great people, truly being them, is the only thing that has ever created a great change on this planet? Are you willing to step up? Are you willing to be one? Check out a copy of my new book, Being You, Changing the World. I invite you to go to beingyoubook.com for a free gift.
You're listening to Messy Adventures in Living with Petrina Fava. To participate in today's show, please call in the U.S. 815-880-8255. In Canada, 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also ask questions or comment by email by sending to Petrina at petrinafava.com. Now, here's Petrina with more Messy Adventures.
Hey, welcome back to Messy Adventures in Living. I'm your host, Petrina Fava. Today, we are talking about creating or staying busy. So what is this for you? What is the energy like now, coming towards the end of the show? If you've been listening, what is staying busy? What is being busy for you? Do you like being busy? Have you been praised for being busy? Totally not making busy wrong over here. But what have you decided busy is? And what have you decided creation is? And, where are your definitions of these words and these things setting up a bunch of limitations in your life? I was just looking at some quotes about being busy, and we were joking about trees and how they spend their whole entire lives converting oxygen to carbon dioxide, and yet they don't have a point of view about it. So it kind of makes me wonder, is that all this is? Is it just a point of view? I don't know. I don't claim to have any of the answers here on Messy Adventures in Living. Is it about having a point of view about it? There's another quote that I found that says, "It's not enough to be busy. So are the ants. The question is, what are you busy about? It's not enough to be busy. So are the ants. The question is, what are we busy about?" So I read that and I was kind of like, hey man, why are you picking on the ants? Because, the ants are busy making their little homes and, I don't know, doing what ants do, collecting food and stuff. And they're busy, right? They're busy workers. They're always moving and always doing something. So, have you have we decided as a society that something like that is not a fulfilling life? I mean, the ants don't have a point of view about it. The trees don't have a point of view about it. They're okay with it. They're cool, and they don't have a point of view about it if it's wrong or not. So then it doesn't bother them. So then who cares? Then stay busy. I don't know. Maybe you like it that way. Choose it. It's good. But I think the difference is that busy has an energy of like being preoccupied, right? Having a busy life, staying busy, always being busy, busy with work, busy with schedules, busy with busy with work and busy with schedules. It has a sense of being preoccupied. So it's not, I don't think busy is necessarily about having a whole bunch of things, doing things, staying busy with things. For me, the energy of busy is about being preoccupied or being unaware or using busy to distract you from something. Having a full life is different than being busy. Right? So you can be the kind of person that likes to have a whole bunch of things on the go. I know a lot of people like that. I am one of those people. Do you travel a lot? Like, are you always busy traveling? Like, do you have a mobile business and you don't have a 9-to-5 job? And are you constantly like on the go traveling to different places in the world? And do people judge you for being too busy when really you're having a full life? So, does it come down to choice? Does it come down to point of view? Are you choosing to have a full life, or are you using busy to distract yourself from all of the things that you don't actually want to do, or from all the places where you think you have no choice? That's kind of the question we're asking today on this show. Creating or staying busy. And again, like, I don't have the answers, and this is something that, if it's really coming up for you, something you need to ask yourself: am I using my busyness to distract myself from something? And I just have to say that every time I say busyness, it reminds me of the word business. And I'm not sure exactly what that is, but what have we decided business is? What have we decided having your own business means? Does it mean busyness? Are you always busy? Have you decided that you're always going to be busy if you have your own business? Right? I sometimes have that point of view. Like, if I have a business, then it means I'm always on 24/7 and I never get to have a break. It's a very interesting point of view. That's, limiting. That's limiting. It's a limiting point of view. So what have you decided business is that it actually isn't? There was something else that I wanted to say, and I forgot what it was. Anyways, okay. So what else is possible besides staying busy and being unaware? You can choose. That's, again, messy adventures in living. So what could you choose today that would create the future you would like to have? Whether that looks like busyness, or whether it looks like a relaxed, laid-back kind of life. And what have you decided creating is that it actually isn't? And what have you decided creating isn't that it actually is? So, yeah, what else? What else is going on for you guys? Will this create the future I'm choosing? It's like my favorite question of the hour. What is this choice going to create, and is it going to create the future I'm choosing? Yeah, cool. Well, what is it in your life that you are distracting yourself with the busyness that you're choosing? Like, are you distracting yourself from a relationship? Are you distracting yourself from your family? Is there something that you don't want to face, that you're keeping your plate full? Very different from having a full life. Staying busy as a way to avoid something, to avoid a relationship of some kind, to avoid something that you feel like you have to do, is very different than choosing to create your life. Okay, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thanks for listening to Messy Adventures in Living. Please join me again next week. And choice creates awareness. Don't forget.
Thanks for playing with us on
Bye-bye.
Messy Adventures in Living. Petrina Fava will return next Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain, and 8 a.m. Pacific on Inspired Choices Network. We'd love to have you join us again. Until next time, have fun creating your phenomenal life, mess and all.